you have to find a balance though, because if you do this too much, then people will think, oh well, he never wants to interact. Like when you're a beginner, you always have like a window of good muscle growth, and so that's when I started taking it seriously. Ever since, like I've been a frequent trainer.
You must have heard about the popular line that you are the sum of 5 people who you are with. From the past 2 months, I have been training with one of my dearest friend, Max, and he happened to be one of the guests in our podcast. On this first episode of Unfiltered with Aman, we are going to have a conversation with Max. Starting his journey from UK and building all the way his career up to here in Germany, Max is one of those people who know how to maintain their focus. In this first episode of podcast, we're going to catch into the learnings that Max has for us. So hope you enjoy this podcast.
I'm Max, I'm from the UK. I study at the University of Leeds. I do German and business, hence why I met a man, because I'm on my year abroad.
Maybe we should mention that we are in Dortmund right now.
Currently we're outside in Germany.
The view that you're looking at is the view from the dormitory of ours, which is in TU Dortmund. So we are actually, coincidentally, we actually happen to be together at the same time for the Erasmus program. So that's how we met.
Yeah, I mean, in our block, I think everybody is international students, right? So like, I think maybe it must be on purpose that they bring us all together. But this is how I met a man, and ever since we've been quite tight and getting to know each other every day, and to the point where we've built a good bond and spend a lot of time with each other.
Yeah, perfect. So we have a lot of questions for you, Max. I mean, I hope you are ready for all of them.
I'm always ready.
Perfect. Okay, so maybe let's start by asking a very straightforward question. So you started your schooling in the UK, right? So how is it like when you start your schooling in UK? Do you feel that the schooling that you did help you perpetuate to the person that you are right now, or was it like something that was quite compelling to you and what was not really supportive?
All the way from nursery, like.
Oh no, maybe you can start from like something like much more higher level, like high school.
So for me, my time at school isn't quite like, I wouldn't say it's normal, because I went to a boarding school, so it's definitely shaped how I live my life. And you can take the boy out of boarding school, but you won't take the boarding school out of the boy. It's a different environment living in a boarding school, because you have to you're by yourself in a way, and you have 50 brothers. So it definitely shapes how you act and how you see situations. You have to learn in this environment how to behave, like because it's like it's a social setting. It's a different social setting. It's not like normal school where you go home every day to your parents and like, oh, how was school? Oh, it was okay. Like this happened and I was a bit annoyed about it. You're on your own, you know. So you have to learn when's the right time to show emotion, when's the right time to not, when's the right time to say something, when not. You also learn about yourself, because you learn about what kind of person you want to be, particularly when you're being tested all the time, because obviously, like, growing up in a boys' boarding house, like, people are going to misbehave, or like people are going to not act like adults sometimes, because obviously different people are at different stage of maturity. So you got to learn, how do you interact with that? How do you respond to certain things? Like, I always give the analogy of, let's say you have a ball, a football, or could be anything, I don't know, like a cricket bat or whatever, and you on the first week it will be, hey, can I please use your bat or your ball? Sure, use it. And then next week, and then if people find you're easygoing, you're quite easy to, like, you're just a yes person, they'll be like, okay, well, can I have your ball? It won't be please now. Oh, can I have your ball? Like, yeah, go on. And then next week, give me your ball. And then after a few weeks, I won't even ask. I'll just take. Like, so you have to learn, like, what to say, and it definitely shapes how you are as a person. Like, because a lot of people, I don't know, maybe suffer from homesickness here, you know, because everyone's come on Erasmus in a different country, and some people maybe for the first time. But when I first went to boarding school, my parents actually lived in Germany, so I was in school in the UK, and so I learned very quickly to be like homesick isn't a thing. Like
so
for me,
you're not having an option to go back basically because your parents were in Germany, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I couldn't really. I was at the school 24/7. You know, it was very rare that someone came to see me on the weekend and take me out of school.
Yeah.
So growing up for about 8 years of my life, school is your life at this point. Like,
at what age you went to the boarding school?
10. I was 10 years old. Because I was actually propelled into this situation because my parents recognised that the school I was at in Germany wasn't pushing me hard enough, or I wasn't learning in the best way possible, and that's because the whole of British Forces journey, well as in the army, and everyone went to school on all the soldiers' children went to school in this one army camp school.
Okay.
It's like a normal UK primary school, just happens to be in Germany.
Okay.
But because of that, there are about 600 kids in one primary school. Now in the UK, normally only about normal primary schools only have about 100 kids.
Okay.
So there's way too many kids, and not enough kids could get the
the attention of the teacher, right?
Yeah, not only the attention, but like the required amount of interaction to improve. So my parents recognised this, and the British Army has a scheme where they will pay a certain amount of the fees to put your children into like private education if you want to, but it's like 70% split, so they pay 70%, you pay 30%.
Okay.
But then it allowed me to stay at one school, because also in the army you move around every 2 years, so 2 or 3 years you'll go to a different place, so hence why I've lived in like 3 different towns in Germany.
Wow.
Because you just move every 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
And so that meant like you also have to move and then you leave your friends you made, and so that's another thing. Like I think it's quite easy for me to make new friends because of this, you know. Always being on the move,
so
so
it kind of helps you to break the bond quite fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Ice breaking is like a natural thing for me.
Okay.
It just happens naturally. Yeah, I don't and I'm not I also learned like all the friends I make, I'm very happy to be around them, but I also don't resent that I have to leave. I just know that when I see them next.
I feel one thing that you must be pretty good at is how do you filter out friends quite fast, right? I mean, filtering out friends quite fast.
Yeah.
Because when you know that you're here for like certain amount of time, you would want to maximize the amount of time that you have with your friends, right?
Yeah,
you would want to filter out, I know that this guy is, how is he's going to behave with like 1 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or maybe a month.
Yeah.
And you know that, maybe if this guy is not really behaving the way I want, I can move on to another one.
Yeah, I think like for me, I normally find out on the first interaction how I believe how that relationship is going to build, grow. Sometimes like, okay, well, you're like a, hey, how are you when I see you, friend, not a, hey, look, let's organise something, friend. I say like in life I have a lot of acquaintances but fewer friends.
Okay.
A lot of people who I don't mind being around. Like when I see them, it's all good. But in terms of putting time and energy into interacting with them, then I save that for the people who I'm like, they're important. I want to spend time with them. Like there's a constructive element.
Do you feel that this approach of yours sometimes can be misunderstood by the people, and they think that you're being rude to them, rather you're being actually practical to them, to be honest?
I think sometimes, because I really don't like misleading people, whether that's just one person I meet, or even if I was in a more serious relationship, I wouldn't want to lead someone on and say, hey, look, I'm not, or giving them a false understanding of what the meaning is of this relationship. So for me, it's quite important to make sure that the person who I'm with knows that
ins and outs of you.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I want to, then you'll know. You'll know my intentions by the way I interact with you. Like if that's what I like to think. And sometimes it can sometimes people are like, oh, he's being a bit blunt today.
Okay.
But it's not. I wouldn't say I'm being blunt. It's just that I don't think I would spend a lot of time with you on the outside. So I keep maybe the conversation short and sweet, because you can get to a point where it gets awkward when it goes on for too long. Like if you're having a conversation with someone and then you get to the point where, there's nothing else to talk about.
Okay.
Then it gets boring. It's awkward. Where it's short and sweet with someone who maybe you don't spend as much time with, but obviously you gotta in this situation interact with them and say like, yeah, cool, like, how's your day, what are you doing, what were you doing last weekend? Oh, awesome, that sounds great. Maybe ask a few more questions about that, and then don't be afraid to say, hey, look, I've got to go, or I'm going to talk to this person, like, if you're at a party or whatever, because then you avoid that
wasted of time.
Wasting of time, and like that awkward situation that may arise when you like, okay, well, the potential of this conversation is gone.
Yeah.
Like,
and I feel that also makes you a person who is not sugarcoating on things, right? I mean, I feel like a lot of people in India especially, right? I mean, they always try to sugarcoat and make things softer. But what it leads to is it leads to first of all, like, senseless hopes, and secondly, a lot of wastage of time, of course.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Like, in my life, and I think I learned this from my dad, just being around him, but like, I won't be afraid to like make a decision or speak my mind. Like, let's say, like, not like in an aggressive way, but like if I want to do something, I'll say like, okay, I'm going to leave now, or like, hey, look, I think I'm going to do this today, or I wouldn't be the sort of person who feels the pressure to say yes. Let's say someone was going for a meal at the cafeteria, and I wanted, in my head I was planning on going home. I wouldn't fold and say, oh, okay, well, I'll come, just to come in, just for the sense of it.
Okay.
I'm quite happy to have my own control of my own thoughts and actions, and say, no, I want to go home. Like, I'll see you guys later. Like, I'll see you guys another time.
Yeah.
You have to find a balance though, because if you do this too much, then people will think, oh, well, he never wants to interact. Like, I think when the first time you meet someone like on the Erasmus, it's even if you don't want to do it, like, let's say, like, if you went on a trip somewhere and you're not really interested or bothered about going on a trip, still go, because then you've invested time into this person.
So that leads me to the next question. How do you meet? How do you face the people with whom you have basically said no to them, and how do you handle them with the next time they meet you? Do you have this wall in front of you that okay, I've just stopped interacting with them all the time, or you're like pretty smooth with them again?
I'd say, like, for me, if I said no, if there's no animosity there, I just don't want to do it normally, or like I'm not interested in it, so there's no bad feelings on my side. I always say, like, you can't control the wind, but you can control your sails. So if I see this person and they're like friendly, they're content with me, then I'm going to be content back.
Okay.
There's no reason for you to not show respect in that way. I don't mean any disrespect when I say no, I don't want to do it. It's just like, I have my own plans, or I have my own idea what I want to do that day, and it doesn't align. That's all. It's not that I don't like that person or you're annoying, or like, it's just that, like, I have something in my head that I want to do, and therefore I'm going to do it, So, and then when I come to see that person around, for me, it's just...
it's just a normal human
Yeah, it's just like, oh, how you doing? Like, what's going on? There's no reason to...
But do you already have, like, a pre-idea of what you are, like, what you had the memory before of this person? Or
I'd say so. Like, I know, because like, okay, well, this person maybe not so... open, or maybe a bit undescriptive, so maybe short and sweet, like, hey, how are you? Yeah, good. And then, like, then you do something else, or like, or if you know that they're quite an open, like, outgoing person, then maybe strike up a bit of a long conversation. It just depends on how you've interpreted that person on the first time, and that will influence how you talk to them the next one.
Cool. Okay, so next question that I have for you is, like, so you have been to Germany, I believe 3 times, right? At least from your LinkedIn profile.
Well, yeah, I mean, I used to live in Germany. So I spent a lot of time, almost 8 years, when I was a little kid. I left when I was 14. But since I moved to the UK, I've been about 4 times. I went to Hamburg, Berlin, and now here.
Okay, so how has all these experiences shaped you in a way, and what sort of perspective do you have about Germany? That's one. And the second question is like, which experience you feel is like the most impactful one that has affected you the most? You get triggered about it. You're happy about it, or any sort of feeling that you're attached to it.
I think that what I respect a lot in Germany is how they have the idea of like everything is. They have a sense of trust in the society. Like, for example, there's no conductor on the train. In the UK, that would never happen.
Oh, okay.
Because people would just probably like bump the train.
Oh, okay.
But they have that sense of trust that no, everyone will buy a ticket, and like we don't necessarily need conductors all the time because people are going to do the right thing.
Yeah.
I also like the fan system. Every time I come to Germany, I'm impressed at how much they like recycle and try to take care of the environment. But on the other hand, because now I study German and whatnot, I've had to delve deeper into more societal things, and I don't like how they got rid of nuclear power.
Okay.
It's a weird thing, but it's something that does trigger me because currently, for everyone who doesn't know, Germany's facing a climate, an energy crisis.
Yeah.
For example, there may be blackouts, cold showers coming up in the future, and like the heating here has been capped, so you can't just turn the radiator on and it goes to full heat. It's limited, and if they didn't get rid of their nuclear power system, they probably would be in a much better position to tackle this problem, and we wouldn't need to do these things. And also, because Germany gets quite a lot of gas from Russia, that's a problem because they're dependent on Russian gas, and it's not got to that point yet, but it could be used against them, and if they relied on nuclear power, this wouldn't be an issue. But on more of a personal point though, like for stuff that I've done, I really like how Germany is progressive in the way that like stuff gets done. Like there's no dilly-dallying about things. It's sorted. If there's a problem, it normally gets it's normally quick to be solutions quickly found.
Do you find people in Germany are quite rude, or are they much more
sometimes
friendly?
I always
than UK, I mean.
In the UK, I don't know. It's very complex to
compare.
Yeah,
okay.
But I think like in general, you're always going to find rude people or like friendly people. I think overall, I'd say that it definitely helps because obviously you don't speak German.
Yeah.
I have a okay understanding. I'd say.
C1, right?
No, B. I have one. I hope to. I'm on B2 right now.
Yeah.
But if you speak the language, it definitely helps. But I think that people can be a bit agitating sometimes when they maybe aren't familiar with you, or you put them in a different situation, like having to speak English instead of German, and like, oh, why do I have to do this? Like, but then on the flip side, there are people who are really happy to speak English with you, or like interact with someone who's not from Germany. It makes their day. So it's 50-50. I mean, as I say, it's not that I wouldn't say Germans are this or that. It's just everywhere has these people, but everyone also has good people,
Yeah, cool. Okay, so another thing that I want to ask you is like, so me and Max have been training for 3 weeks now.
Yeah, about 3 weeks.
Yeah, about 3 weeks, and Max is like one of those person who hits the gym and he hits the gym. If he goes to the gym, he's into the gym like properly. So, but we never had this conversation about this. Like, so how did you, and was there a reason or like how that you started going to the gym, or how was your journey like getting into sports in general and then eventually to gym as well?
Well, I was always a sporty kid growing up. Like
was it something in your family?
Yeah, my dad's big sports guy. He's always supported Aston Villa Football Club because he's from Birmingham. And so ever since I've been a little kid, I've always supported this team.
He also plays any sports?
Yeah, he does. He actively played rugby growing up. At school, he played rugby. He plays cricket, and he occasionally dabbles in football. But he's been quite well known, like to to be quite a good rugby player, and he's okay at cricket. But I've only seen him play like since he's been old, because we played in the same team actually. Because cricket,
I know for a fact rugby is a important game in UK, right?
Yeah, it's very important.
Even if you see a couple of Indian movies where people actually move to the UK, they make sure that they show some sort of scene where they're actually playing, rugby.
Oh yeah.
I remember from my childhood there was a movie where they were actually in the movie they were having a competition, and the movie was about people playing rugby over there.
Oh, right.
So
okay.
that was quite interesting to see that rugby is an important sport in UK.
Yeah, and I played rugby like when I was a very little kid. My dad introduced me to start playing rugby when I was like 5.
Oh.
And you play tag rugby when you're 5. So you have like tags strapped to your like waist.
Okay.
And so instead of tackling, you take the tag, and then when you get the tag, you have to like put the ball down on the floor or something, I believe. I forgot how it works, but the main purpose is you have to tags, and when you get to like 9, 10, you go into contact rugby, and then you play like the proper rules, where it gets a bit nitty and gritty and muddy. But and I stopped playing only because I moved to Germany and no one plays rugby here. So that's why I stopped, and I started playing more football. And then cricket, I've always played cricket at school.
I think that's something that we share in common, right?
Yeah. At school, because I went to the boarding school, we played sport every day, and then there was always a match on the weekend with a different school.
Okay.
So sport was like so important growing up at the school. Yeah, it's a fundamental part of the school. We played football at school, football term, hockey term, but I don't like hockey, so I played basketball, and then cricket. I've always been a sporty guy, but I really started going because everyone else went. Like everyone in my circle of friends started getting into it. I was like, well, I'm not gonna not do it. And then also but I first went when I was like 15, 16. I didn't take it properly seriously. I was looking at loads of stupid stuff on YouTube, stuff that's not practical. I wasn't training the same way I train today.
Okay.
And I was just going because everyone else going. I had no real idea what I was doing, what's the purpose of this exercise or day. I think I used to do loads of sets on for example on chest day I do 5 sets because that's what some guy on the internet said.
Okay.
And I took you take their word like gospel. So but then I didn't take it seriously, and I didn't really go that much. And then I really took it seriously when I was in lower 6th school, which is the second to last year before you go to university. I was playing football and I ruptured my ankle ligaments. Someone tackled me, and if this is my foot, it bent too much, and the ligament snapped. And I had to rehab for about 6 months. I was on crutches for a bit. I had one of those big moon boots. And so I couldn't do any running. So I ordered some weights to my room, and I couldn't walk to the gym. So I ordered some weights to my room, and then I started doing exercises every day. And because it was every day, it was constant. I saw some immediate growth. When you're a beginner, you always have a window of good muscle growth, and so that's when I started taking it seriously. Ever since, I've been a frequent trainer.
But I know for a fact that when you're having a sports injury, especially, the recovery time is much more longer than the usual ones, if I'm not wrong, right? Because the impact is quite strong.
Yeah.
So how has your experience been about the surgeries and all these complicated situations where you are impacted quite heavily in sports, essentially?
Well, this was my most major injury I've ever had.
How many injuries you had?
I broke bones a few times, but this one was quite a serious one because it was the ligaments. If you break a bone, you're in a cast for about a month or 2, and then it will slowly heal. Where I had so much exercises that I had to do for rehabilitation. For this one, it was crazy. A lot of rubber band work, and then balance tasks with a ball thrown on the wall on one leg. I don't think I've ever been to say I've never been an amazing football player. I've never been great. I don't want to claim that, but I felt I couldn't play football at the same ability after the injury. It just didn't feel as smooth, And the season after, the season I got injured, I was scoring a lot of goals. and I only for the third team, there's 5 teams in the school. I play for not the first team, the third team.
Okay.
Just to make that clear, not big-headed.
A lot of teams.
But then.
Wait, are you playing for something over here?
The school.
No. Are you playing something here over here in TU?
No, I haven't found that yet. I've tried a bit of the university ones, but either they're not a proper. It's not a team, it's just a session.
Oh, okay.
Or when I did go for a team, it was a bit too. Intense for what I want. Everyone is competing in the TU teams, also competes outside of TU in their own football teams, and it was too precise. That's not what I'm looking for these days.
I feel that's something that I realize over here as well, that sports are taken either too seriously or either not taken at all. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing in between, because that's something that I realize at TU is either you start at the start of the semester and you follow along the entire semester, or you just don't do it at all, right?
Yeah.
If you plan to someday, think that okay, it's December or it's New Year, I want to start yoga. That's not even an option.
No, not really. I mean, you have to buy the sports card and get into it. It's not something you can just turn up and do.
Is it the same in Germany, or have you experienced it before as well? You cannot really start sports right from the middle or something like that?
Well, when I lived in Germany before, the British kids played in a German football league.
Okay.
And there it was quite a intense way to get in. You had to sign up, you had to do the paperwork, and then you were available to play. You could play. And then on the serious side, it was taken very seriously. Often kids would play, and there's no problem with this, but kids would play aggressively, they take it seriously. And something which never happens in the UK games, but always happens in German youth football, is at the end of the game, no matter what the result was, there'll be a penalty shootout.
Okay.
If there'll be a penalty shootout to practice, both teams will do a penalty shootout.
Mm-hmm.
That's why me and my dad have always said that's why they're so good at penalties where the English aren't, because they practice a lot more than us.
Okay.
So
that's a thing so let's say there's a match between Dortmund and Bonn.
Yeah.
Okay? And let's say Dortmund wins.
Yeah.
Of course, Dortmund wins. Okay.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the match, there will be definitely a penalty shootout.
Only in non-pro. In pro,
okay.
no, because it's pro.
Yeah, it's
but
pro.
When you're growing up as a kid in kids sports, yes, definitely. There's always, or when I played for sure, there was always a penalty shootout.
Is it an opportunity to so that kids can improve on penalty?
Yeah, of course, because it's because you're there anyway, so you may as well do the penalty, and it's a good way to end the game. Even let's say it's been a tight game, if it's a draw, that's perfect, because then you find out.
Then you have a reason, right? Then you have a reason.
But even if it's not a draw, and someone's won, it's just a way to get the most out of the game and take a penalty. Just be in that position, because one day one of those players, it's not really for the group, it's for the one player who may go to the higher level.
Yeah, okay.
And prepare it, but at the same time you're preparing everyone. So in that situation, he's already prepared to take that penalty and score, or at least do his best.
I think that's a very good strategy.
Yeah.
Cool. Looking at one of the most important thing that I feel I should ask you is from your Twitter.
Okay.
We digged a little deeper and we realized that you have some really strong thoughts about people going to Oxford.
Yes, yeah. Well,
so I really want to know about this tweet that you posted. I have come to the conclusion that people who went to the University of Oxford are indeed some of the most idiotic people in society.
I came to this conclusion because I think
that's a strong conclusion, by the way.
It's a semi-joke. It's not something I take.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but. There were 2 teachers at my school, my housemaster and one of the other teachers, and they both went to Oxford. A lot of these teachers at my school went to Oxford.
Okay.
And this guy was just really annoying. He wasn't that good at man management, which is key when you're the housemaster. The housemaster, because you've got to manage those 50 boys the best way possible, and he wasn't good at that. And I have one specific quote from him, and he was talking about the other teacher, because the teachers do rounds to see if you're all in bed, not on your laptops or anything, and I've always struggled to sleep, so sometimes I read books like on my Kindle before, and obviously the lights are out, I'm reading on my Kindle. And then the teacher sees the lights from like under the door and comes in, like, because he is supposed to do that because you're supposed to be asleep, like. But I believe there's nothing wrong with reading. I was always allowed to do it in the junior school, like there was no problem. And then the house, he goes like, give me the Kindle. I'm like, I'm just reading. I'm not like watching YouTube videos or doing something I shouldn't be doing. Like, I'm literally just reading the book. He's like, no, give me it. So he took it, and then the next day I had to see the housemaster and see, like, can I have my Kindle back, and like, you shouldn't be doing this. Like, so I said I'm on my Kindle. I'm not doing anything bad. I'm literally reading. And then the guy, both of them went to Oxford, and he says, do you really think that Mr. Couldry, a man who went to Oxford, is going to lie to me about your Kindle or whatever? And I was like, yes, he did. And you're stupid, Mr. Oxford, for believing him. And then also, like, of course there are some very intelligent people who go to like University of or Oxford University in Cambridge, but look at Kwasi Kwarteng, the Chancellor, who was he went to Cambridge. And yet, he made some awful decisions while he was Chancellor. You know, just people who ride on, oh well, I went to Oxford, so I'm, prestigious. That's a silly thing to believe, and I find that happens too much with people who went to Oxford. So this is why I'm annoyed
by the people who go to Oxford.
Yeah, obviously.
I feel like when you're extremely into, like, when you're an extreme nerd or something, when you're like extremely into studies, you kind of lose the side of your life where you are a good human being as well. You start to become someone who is like very bound to the rules, always, very particular about things, and see things quite inhumanly, I feel.
I agree. Because you dedicated so much time to that field of whatever you're studying or your work, like that's your focus, and everything else is second place to that. So that's why I was a bit annoyed about like Oxford, and and it takes a lot to get there. I'm not saying it's easy, or like these people are not intelligent. They clearly are, but I just think they assume too much.
Because I know this for a fact, that because it's the same thing in India. That me and my brother's our parents never really pushed us to like go extremely hard on studies, because in India we have some really competitive universities. But what majority of all these universities do is like they make you someone who is not having any sort of taste or any sort of things to belong to, and you're always categorized as someone who is like just made for studies, and that brings you off the track.
It defeats the purpose.
People don't really like you afterwards. You're like, okay, you're good in, let's say, physics or science, but I don't like you because you're not a good human being. That's something which is a very common characteristics of all these people.
Interesting.
Yeah, true. Cool. Okay, so moving on, I also want to know about, so when you say that a lot of people in the UK don't really have this understanding of, maybe considering or biasing towards your actions, let's say the housemaster that you said. So is it like how has it like affected your perspective towards UK education system? Would you when you'll have your kids, do you want them to go to the UK education system or some other country's education system?
I'll split this into two: university and normal school. Like, as I say, I went to a private school, so like I don't really have a good understanding of the like public school system. Sorry, not the public school, like the the state school system. I'd say that like you can still do well at state schools, but you have to try really hard. Like because at the private school, for example, the teacher lives there, so you can they're going to do the most. Like if you want to come into class before school starts, we'll do it. Like you can ask questions all the time. Like particularly if your teacher also works in your house, then they're literally there to ask. If I needed history questions, I'd ask my history teacher, or my house master was an English teacher. So like if I needed help with English, I'd just go and ask him, and because he's always there, he's gonna answer the question. And like the teachers, because they live there and they're so hands-on, they really do the most, and you get the most out of the money you're paying for. Whereas in the state school system, it's quite rarer to find that the teachers will really care about the students. For them, it's just, well, I ain't getting paid to spend extra time here, so I'm going home. So like you can try. As I say, you can, and sometimes the kids don't take it as seriously because the standards aren't as high, so they don't push themselves because of the surroundings they're in. But I'd say that most people do well enough. It's not bad, but the best combination for me is what my sisters do now. No. They go to a private school, but they're a day student, so they live only. We live half an hour from the school. They go to school every day. They come home. So you can board at this school too, but they don't. That's what I'd like for my children if I can do it. But I think it all depends on your own focus. At the end of the day, you can be at a really good school like mine and not focus. There are loads of kids at my school who didn't work hard and they got bad grades, and now they're at bad universities and it's okay for them in a way because they're on daddy's money.
I think being in Leeds is like quite prestigious, right? I think one of the most prestigious universities.
Yeah, it's in the Russell Group, so I'm happy to be there, it's quite a high one. In terms of university though, it's very different. You have the Russell Group universities and then all the rest. So
so there's just two categories.
Pretty much. There's 12 Russell Group universities. They include Oxford, Cambridge. In itself, there's a de facto ranking. So like at the top you've got Oxford, Cambridge, LSE, UCL. They're in their own one, and then like you have a middle category which maybe like Leeds. Durham might be in the top of one, but like in the higher one, sorry. Yeah, Leeds, Manchester, University of Bristol, Exeter, and then you have a bottom one which is like Liverpool, University of Liverpool, Newcastle. But these are all still good universities. And then you have the old polytechnics who are now allowed to call themselves universities, and they kind of lull you into believing that you've done the right thing going to university, when I think it would have been more practical for a lot of people to go to do an apprenticeship or something and earn money straight away that they can use and invest in something, because you're getting into debt for something that the degree sometimes necessarily isn't worth the paper it's printed on, because like even if you get that degree, you're then competing with the people who went to the better universities in the workspace, and they're going to get the jobs before you most of the time, which isn't necessarily fair, but that's the way the world works. And then also, like, most people go to these universities for like 3 years of avoiding responsibilities, so like clubbing, and at the end of the day, I come out with a degree. Like, so they don't take it as seriously as like it should be, and so it's kind of defeats the purpose and the and then in itself, university I think I think the university is the worst education in terms of how much interaction you have that I've ever had, and
I think that highly depends on the subject that you're studying.
Of course, and exactly, it's a subjective thing.
For something like me, for something like my field of study, robotics, you can't really finish robotics if you don't like do projects.
Of course. There's a lot of work required in that, but like for me, and I think my opinion is very I'll happily admit like it's very minute, because like obviously I went to like a private school and where everything was so hands-on. Moving to university, like maybe for most people they don't have the same interpretation, but like for example, like a few Zoom calls, you just watch the Zoom call, you take a few notes, or like you go to class, they like maybe use you a bit of talking in the group for German for a business class. You look at like, and the lecturers are just recycling the content. You know, there's nothing new here. nothing new. It's just the guy's getting paid to come in every year because of COVID. It was funny. One of our lecturers had made the notes last year, and the date was on the thing when he made it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like, he's done nothing new there. He's just saying the same stuff. You know? And
I kind of feel the same thing that happens with a lot of subjects in robotics as well, to be honest, because I feel there are some subjects which don't really change at all. Like one of the subjects that I have over here is computational engineering. We were given the notes and they were like obviously rated properly, but on Googling and I was trying to find some solution for the assignment, I figured out there was someone who uploaded the same notes on another website. Reddit, of course, and and the notes were actually from 2010, and they were the same that we're reading right now. So I was like, oh, that's strange.
I mean,
I understand what you're trying to say.
So I'd say in that sense, university is, and you've got to do a lot of the work yourself at university, like whereas at school the teachers are going to be on your back if you don't do your homework, for example, and by no means am I saying the lecturers should do that, because they shouldn't. Like, you're an adult now, you should do your work, but like they don't change their teaching strategy to suit the students. They're just going to teach, and if you make the most of what they say, like whereas at school, I don't know, maybe the teacher finds that the kids will learn best if they sit here and there's a seating plan, or like if I do this form of teaching, maybe like descriptive or using videos. They don't care at university. It's obviously, it's not tailored to you, it's their style of teaching, and you mold yourself around it.
Yeah, but I feel all these education like institutions like schools and universities, they give you a good amount of knowledge in terms of on paper, but you don't learn anything practical unless you face real world, right?
Of course, like I think like I often question myself, like, because I do German and business in Leeds, on the business ones I think, well, how am I certain that I remember all this when I actually am in the situation, or am I just here just to get the piece of paper that says I've done it?
Yeah, but because I was reading an article I think a couple of weeks back, and it said that people coming out from business schools do know what is an MVP, but still don't know how to make one.
Yeah.
And they can possibly project a business plan, but they cannot implement the perfect business plan on by the Sims.
Yeah, I think these things are natural in my opinion. Like it's either you're built that way. I mean, I did a really interesting module. I think it might, if it 2 years ago actually, is that what makes a good entrepreneur, like and some people were saying, are you born with it, or is it something that you develop over time?
Okay.
And there was no real right or wrong answer. You had to it was just understanding what it took to be an entrepreneur and how you can be more like one, or if you resemble, or if you see the same traits in yourself, like and it was important to see, like, there are examples of people who were they didn't need to go to university and they built the biggest companies in the world, and then there's some people who went to university, they learnt it, and then they implemented it. It just depends, like it's subjective.
But on those lines, I think my next question is, like, I know that we had this conversation before as well, that you want to start like a clothing company. So what's the vision for that? Why do you aim for a clothing brand specifically?
Well, I don't want to dive too much into it, because I will answer your question briefly, but I want to start a clothing company because growing up at school, because a lot of the kids went to school where, they came from good families, and I was the education was being paid for me by the army, so I wouldn't have been able to go to the school if the army wasn't paying. But a lot of these kids were well off, and so they had like the best clothes, the best stuff, like, and it was a materialistic atmosphere at the school. Like, well, if you ain't got this, you're a brokey, you ain't cool. And I didn't like that. So I always strive to like make my own clothes one day, so like I want to make that so that I can have my own brand, like I can have something that I can resemble, something that makes me think about that time when I couldn't, and so I'm making the clothes myself, you know.
Can we get some trailers on the name or the
yeah, I can tell you that because it's called Der Wald in German, and it's the logo is like a tree. It's like a pine tree, but it's very simplistic because I learned like simplicity is key, like because you want a logo that people are going to remember. Like your proxy one's quite simple, like but effective. It's not too much, you know, too in your face.
We recently changed it because of the software business.
Yeah, so like you want a logo that's memorable and also that looks interesting, and at the same time, let's say I half it, you can still recognise the logo. You don't have to see the full logo to be like, oh well, that's Nike, or that's Adidas. Like you only need to see a bit of it, and then that's what makes a good logo. So less is more sometimes, you know. And I think with clothes, like that's an important thing. So I have lots of ideas of what I want to do, and you can express yourself, express like who you are, your style through clothing, and that's something that like I want to build on.
Are you so with the clothing business? Are you planning to be the next like Versace, Gucci, or are you planning to be the next like a brand which everyone idolizes, like Nike?
Yeah, I don't want to be like a really all-purpose company like Nike. Like they do shoes, they do clothes, they do backpacks, whatever, you know. I want it to be more about just clothes, and like I don't know, like I like Palace or Comme des Garçons, you know, Comme des Garçons. It's like the brand with like the heart and the eyes. I want to be like one of those ones. Like it's not niche, but it's not incredibly niche, and I don't want it to be like only for like a certain target group. More like for everyone, but at the same time not so like easy and low quality that like it's like
not shabby.
Yeah,
right?
not shabby. I want it to have like a standard. So I say like not in the upper echelons, but like imagine there's like 4 different categories on top or a pyramid. You got the top of the pyramid, like your designer brands, and then underneath in the second part there's like this like window where the clothes are not incredibly expensive, but also good enough quality that like it deserves the price. So that's where I want to be. And then at the bottom, obviously, you got like cheap, like Shein or like I don't know, Primark clothes, like the ones which are just made en masse.
True. I see. Sounds good. So, I think on those lines, I think you are aiming to be someone who is, or your business is essentially going to be someone who people would idolize, and they would know that this brand makes only this.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's incredibly important to me because you've got to have an understanding of.
But don't you think like when you expand in the future, you know, it's got to be some like a bottleneck for you because you're not expanding your domains and you're opening up.
True.
Because when you're in business, you know, you always want to see opportunities where you can expand into as well.
Of course. But you also want to keep that demand, that requirement. Like I felt if I extend too far and I sell loads of clothes, then it's not demanding anymore. There's no demand for it or want. I want there to be some exclusiveness, like, oh, well, he's wearing it, I want one of them.
Yeah.
But I've got to wait for the next drop, you know. I have a...
You want to maintain the exclusivity.
Yeah, exactly, because when that goes, then it's not special anymore. So in different businesses, I'd agree, you need to find ways to expand. And like, but for clothes and like the one I want to build, it's a little bit different, but there's different ways you can expand, not necessarily just through selling stuff.
Because the reason why I asked you this is because last year Apple launched like a cloth, like a piece of cloth just to clean your phones and laptops, and people were insane about it. People were like buying it so much that it went out of stock. So I believe that's something that Apple idolizes, as like they use the logo as something that, you know, if they paste the logo on, let's say, this chair, on this microphone, people just buy it.
Well, I mean, that's what I'd love, but you don't get that through selling en masse. You get that through exclusivity and making a damn good product. You know, and that's what you have to find that balance, you know, because like that's when the requirement comes and the real demand is like, well, I want an Apple because it's Apple, duh. Like, you know, do you only make that through like being the best, and sometimes being the best means not everyone can get it because they're envious. They want it. People want what they cannot have, or not cannot have, but what they don't have. You know, so that's, for me, that's important, and that's what I envision with my brand.
That's cool. Okay, cool. Let's move on to the second part of this podcast. You know,
cool.
Let's go to a little rapid fire.
Okay, awesome.
That's something that I'm interested at. So let's start with the first one: Dortmund or London?
London.
Why?
Just London is like so much to do, so much to see, so many people to meet. Dortmund's a bit grey and dull. So it's an easy one there.
Okay. So football versus business?
Football versus business?
Yeah.
I think football personally, just because like you can get so much enjoyment out of football. Like the business can do great, but like football's a way to escape reality sometimes. So I don't know what I'd do without Aston Villa Football Club. So yeah, football.
Okay. So who's your favorite footballer?
Oh gosh, too many. It's difficult. Like growing up.
Just select one. You know. Neymar.
Mario Götze. I like Ronaldo as well. But
Ronaldo, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Ronaldo is like someone who I'm familiar with.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Everyone knows Ronaldo.
So if you have to choose, if you want to play with Ronaldo versus doing a podcast with me, which one would you choose?
Well,
this is a tricky one. Okay, this is a tricky one.
Ronaldo. No. I mean, I think that it's difficult. Like probably the podcast, because I'd love to meet Ronaldo, but playing football with him is a bit like humiliating, you know. Like I'm just shit compared to. I shouldn't swear. I'm bad compared to him. So yeah.
I see. Okay. So I get one. Ronaldo,
yeah, you get the point in that one. A different setting Ronaldo, maybe it's a tougher decision. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I should ask you like a better question to the Ronaldo or something.
Yeah, maybe. Or the best of both worlds. We can get Ronaldo on this podcast with us. And then everyone's winning.
Okay, that would be a hit.
Yeah.
That would be a hit. Yeah, okay. We might need to get another microphone and expand the setup a little bit. But yeah, that would be a hit. Cool. So, if you have to choose one thing that you have learned from your dad, what would that be? You know.
My dad is a really big role model for me, but definitely dealing with pressure situations. Like I don't want to go on forever, but my dad's been in like Iraq and Afghanistan and then war zones and stuff, and I always think when I feel like the pressure's on, I always think about, well, he did that. Like he's been in when people are trying to kill him every day, like people trying to kill his friends and him. It makes you think, nah, this ain't pressure. Like this exam ain't pressure. Like that ain't, my life's not on the line at the end of the day. I'm gonna live. So yeah, that's probably the thing I learned most from him. Like I always use that analogy all the time.
Okay, cool. So going to a club one night before the exam, or preparing peacefully and just relaxing.
Preparing peacefully any day of the week.
Oh,
any
is
day
it?
Of the week. Yeah, I don't. Clubbing something I do in my free time. It's not my life. I'd much rather focus on the things that are constructive. So yeah.
Gin and tonic or vodka? Gin
and tonic any day of the week. Vodka's okay for me, but I just prefer what you can mix gin with. It tastes better, so gin and tonic. Yeah, you eat just gin rather than vodka, because gin can be mixed with many things.
Fun fact, while we were doing the research for this podcast, is that we realized and we figured out that gin and tonic was invented in India.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And I was like surprised. I didn't know that.
I mean, one of the most famous gin brands called Bombay Sapphire.
Yeah.
It's from and it's an Indian one from Bombay.
Bombay, yeah.
Yeah,
Mumbai.
Exactly. So the gin really took over English culture when it came from India. Like it came from India in the 1800s, 18 or 1900s, and then it was like crazy. Like in fact, I'm sure I told you before, but they stopped bringing it because people are getting too drunk. Like people are getting too drunk off gin, because you don't need a lot of gin, but to get quite wasted. But people are getting too drunk, so they had to limit the amount of supply. Yeah, so interesting fact.
Wow, so. Is it common that you'll find drunk people on the streets of UK or no?
Because on a Friday, Saturday night.
In Germany you can. You can. That's very common.
On a Friday, Saturday night, yeah, probably. If you go into like downtown Leeds, where the clubs and the bars are, yeah, for sure. But not like every day. Not like occasionally you see one, but like it's not a common thing to see loads of drunk people all the time. But like it does happen occasionally. Like, but I wouldn't say as much as it.
Okay. So, and how is it like with the students over there, athletes? Do they get are they like a lot of focused kids, or are they like more like party people?
It's a balance, I think, because in the UK system the first year doesn't count. Like you don't get graded on that year. You only get graded on second and third year.
So the first year you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, but you still need to pass. You still need to pass that the class. Yeah, well no, you have to get the credits.
Okay.
Which just means doing it really. Like you can get a 40% in the year, and then next year take it seriously and get a first honours degree. That's okay. You can do that because the first year doesn't affect the other two. Yeah, in the first year people take it not as seriously, people party, miss lectures, whatever, but some people still take it seriously, of course. And then the breaking points the next year, do you continue to do this or do you become more focused? And that's when you see who's gonna like do well, who's not. That's the breaking point.
So next question is like, do you if you have to choose between if you can go back in time 5 years or 10 years versus if you want to go ahead in time 10 years but be successful, which one would you choose?
Well, I don't like to change. I think the purpose of changing time is awful. Like I think.
But you have to still choose. Let's say you have to choose one.
Yeah,
okay.
but no. But that's what I'm not gonna. I'm gonna go forward 10 years because. However, I also. It's annoying because I'd like to see how I became successful, not instantly get it, because I wouldn't value it if I just got it instantly. Like I need to understand,
enjoy the process.
work it and work for it, and then like you know what this means something. Whereas if it was just instant, like I could throw it all away. And then I don't like the notion of I'll go back in time and change this. It's happened, forget about it, or like own it and then move on.
Stick to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, be comfortable with the decisions you made, even if they were bad. Like it may make you a better person.
Yeah. Okay. So you like to move forward with the things that you own, right?
Yeah.
So so if you made a mistake, you want to commit.
Yeah,
to it.
I own it. Like you know
you
what, made a mistake, learn from it. Not going to do that again. I don't regret it because it was a learning curve. You know.
True. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I think that I go by the same principles as well.
Yeah.
Because I met a lot of people who always in this mood of regretting.
Yeah.
And that's something which I feel is like quite annoying as well.
Yeah, because I mean you can let it weigh you down. Like you can let past mistakes and things weigh you down, and then you don't make any progress because you're too focused about something you did or something that happened. Like it happened, you can't change it. Just make the most of the situation you're in now.
And how do you feel how do you feel about forgiving people? Do you feel that's something that one should be doing it like very regularly, or he should be very strict about all these things?
I think that I say this, I probably don't practice it as well as I should, but I think you should forgive everybody.
Okay.
I mean, particularly like even if someone like really doesn't like you, I think the worst thing you can tell them is I forgive you, because they want you to hate them. They want you to be like, oh gosh, he doesn't like me. But if you go, no, I forgive you, that's gonna annoy them and not you, because like you've forgotten. You don't. I'm showing when I say I forgive you for that, I don't care about what you do. Like it doesn't bother me. You want to bother me, and I don't give a damn. But I think you should always forgive. Don't forget. And don't, if someone does something wrong, like badly, let's say they double cross you or like something, alright, I forgive you for that, but I ain't gonna be
forgetting it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be spending time with you again. If let's say I owe you money and you say, oh sorry, I couldn't pay it back, and then you never see him again, right, fine, I forgive you, but there's no way I'm lending you money.
Yeah.
And I may not lend anyone money after that, like, because you learn from it. Like, forgive, forget. Forgive and don't forget, sorry.
I feel the concept of money always is a quite tricky concept when it comes to friendships.
Yeah.
Because I feel when you start to involve friendships in between, and you start to bring money in between friendships, then it gets quite tricky and complicated as well.
And that's something I learned from my dad too. My dad told me, like, I don't lend money to people. Like, obviously to my family, yes, but like to my friends, no, or people I don't really know, I don't lend money. Like, just won't, because it never ends well, or it rarely ends well. So he doesn't do it. So that's another thing I learned from him. And
how does your ideology go about when you? Maybe a better question would be like, how do you feel about starting a business with someone who you're dating or who you want to be with?
I think that can go wrong. It depends on how comfortable you are with that person, like, and how much you feel that they're the right one, and or if you need them. Like, I try and avoid these things if possible, but sometimes you have to do it with that person. So I wouldn't say don't do it, but like be cautious, because I mean, my dad was telling me a situation. Literally yesterday, because he's doing a business course at the moment on the University of Manchester, and one of the lecturers gave a example of 3 people who started a business together, and they all owned like a third of the business.
Yeah.
However, the problem was all good until one of them died, and then their partner said, "Well, this business is worth £6 million. I want my 2 million." And then it's, well, we can't just give you 2 million. It's an asset, so it's valued at that.
Yeah.
We don't have it in the bank.
Yeah.
And they had to shut the company down because the person had the right to the 2 million, and then there's nothing you could do. And in these situations with family, it gets difficult. And you don't want something that's going to affect family life like all the time. But it depends on the situation, depends on the people.
I feel like when you are starting a business, or if you're having a business, I feel starting a business with your siblings is relatively much more easier.
Definitely.
But if you're starting a business with someone who you're going to sleep with, I think that's really hard.
Yeah, that gets so much. You're bringing extra baggage into your relationship at that point. Where your siblings, though, because they ain't never going to be. They aren't never going to not be your siblings. You know?
Exactly.
They can not be your partner eventually, but your siblings you're bound to for life, whether you like it or not. So definitely siblings. I think if you have a good bond with your siblings, and I think real mature people realise, okay, maybe when we were younger we had our quarrels, but now we're tight and now we get stuff done together.
Yeah. I agree. And on those lines, how do you feel about how's your dating life has been? I mean, that's something which I want to know. As well.
So
maybe just a little bit touching on those areas.
I had a girlfriend before when I went to uni. I was with her for about a year. I dumped her, and I haven't had a girlfriend since. I've been enjoying being single, and I don't really intend to get into a relationship until I come back to the UK, because I knew last year well, there's no point getting in one now. I've got to go to Germany for a year in a few months, so that was just extra baggage. And then here, of course, there's no point getting in one now because I got to go back to the UK. You know?
Exactly.
So I'm in this catch-22. And then when I go back, I'll be more interested in that. But people get bogged down and I need to be in the one. Sometimes just take a step back. If you force it, it's probably not going to end well. But if you let it
flow.
Let it go, the right thing will come along and you'll be in the right place.
But how has this shift of yours? Were you able to experience it quite strongly? That when you were dating someone versus when you were single, has it affected your personal life in any sort of way? Yeah,
definitely, because you have situations that suddenly you're not responsible for just yourself. You have to it's a two-way thing, and you realise, okay, well, I've got to do X, Y, Z now, or stuff that I didn't think about before. I have to think about these days, and you have to share that responsibility. And sometimes you may have arguments and stuff, and that has an effect. And how mature you are. I wouldn't say in our relationship we probably could handle some things better at times, and as a result we fell out and had arguments. But you've got to understand these things, and it depends. You just got to work hard in that relationship to make sure everything is equal and doesn't, or can be as least problematic as possible. But if it is problematic, then it's definitely going to affect how you act, how you work, how you interact with other people. Don't put yourself in a position where you're now changing everything about your life for that person. I don't think you should change for someone. You should, if it matches, it matches. Don't change everything. Obviously little things, change them, but your personality shouldn't necessarily change just because you met someone. You should try and stick the same way, and then I think that's least problematic, because you're not catering to that person. They accept you for you, and that's the best situation, because there's least likely to be arguments and stuff, because you've always been true to yourself and them from day one.
end notes that you want to give like the 16-year-old Max if you meet, if you have the option, to go back in time?
Well, I tell him like, don't apologize for everything. Like, I remember in this relationship actually, like I was talking about, like I often said sorry for stuff, even though like I was in the right. Like I said, oh, I'm sorry. Like, okay, like I'm sorry, but like don't do that. Like say, okay, I was wrong maybe, but like but don't always have to apologize for stuff. Like, and also like,
I think it takes away your self-ego and self-respect as well.
Yeah, definitely.
In some sort of way.
Definitely. I 100% agree with that. And I also think like, don't, if going back to my 16-year-old self, I'd say like, people probably don't care as much as you think. Like, I remember I was at school, I had really bad acne, and I used to like, it ate me up. Like I was like, I'm not the same. If you met me at 16, I would not be the same person that today. Like I would, and if I was on Erasmus then, I'd been very quiet. I like didn't want people to look at me. I didn't want attention.
I think that's with everyone, right? I mean, because I think the major shift that happens to a person is when he or she is like in his 18 or 19s, you know, and then you start to understand people and you start to absorb even more stuff in your life.
Yeah, and I say like, people aren't focusing on as much as you think. Like, people got their own lives to live, own thing to do. Be yourself. Don't be scared. Like, just do what you do.
Do what you want.
Be confident with
be
it.
Confident.
Because I just didn't have the confidence back then, and like it. Obviously, it shaped who I am today, but like I should have been a bit more outgoing and talkative. Like in class, I wouldn't ask questions. Like, I just didn't want to. I didn't want anyone to look at me. Like, if I could, if I could be invisible and just be in the classroom, then cool. That'd be my dream back then. But like, just be confident, you know, and never forget your self-worth. Like, just don't forget that.
Okay, cool. So I think it was quite an interesting talk that we had today.
Definitely. I enjoyed it a lot.
And it was a pleasure to have you here, Max.
Thank you very much.
And I hope every one of you enjoyed this show as well. And we'll see you. We'll see you all in the. Hopefully, maybe we should do another session some other time as well.
But
maybe a little gap, right?
Yeah, get some other guests on.
Yeah, we'll get some guests on.
And everyone can realise that I'm the best, and then you can bring me back. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. But we'll see you in some other episode of Catching Up with Aman.
And I hope you learned something as well.
I hope you learned something.
You know, something. Take something from this this podcast for sure, and try and implement it in your life.
Well, till then, this is Aman from Unfiltered with Aman, and I'll see you on the next one. Till then, peace.